Greetings and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me for this stress management through self-care workshop. I am Dr. Akhu, and we're going to start with a few housekeeping rules, and then we will get into what we're going to do for today. So housekeeping, very important. Please eliminate any distractions as much as you can. I know some of you will be in your place of employment and you may not be able to totally eliminate distractions, but please try to focus as much as you can on the content. Today, we're going to be going very quickly because we've got a lot to pack into an hour and a half. So I don't want you to miss anything, but this will be recorded. So if you can catch back up if you do miss anything. You're going to stay on mute for the workshop. However, there'll be a few points where you can share with each other, share with the whole group. And at those points, I'll ask you to raise your hand. And so to find the place to raise your hand, you go to participants. And when you look over at yourself and participants, there are 3 little dots, and I believe that will help you bring up where you can see where you can raise your hand or you can have reactions, thumbs up, thumbs down. Did I get that right or did I miss anything?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
so make sure you locate where you can raise your hand because there are a few opportunities to do that. Please write down any questions you have and hold them for the end. There are going to be a few times where I'm going to ask you to respond, and I'd like you to keep only put in the responses in the chat box, but we don't want to use the chat box to say hi to people and that kind of thing because I'm handling a lot of this technology on my own, and you don't want to confuse the presenter by putting a lot of extra stuff in the chat box. So please try to only use the chat box for specifically when you're prompted. Also, you want to have paper and pen because there are a few exercises that you're going to need it for, and if you want to keep any notes. So you want to make sure you have that available to you. All right, I think I took care of all of our housekeeping rules, and you're staying on mute also for the background noise, so be mindful of that. We're going to start by getting everybody grounded and being clear about where we are and what our intentions are today. And to do that, we're going to do that through the breath. By the end of the workshop, you'll understand why breathing is so important. But for right now, I just want you to focus on this exercise. You're going to put one hand on your chest and the other hand on your stomach. And the hands are just to help you identify these different parts of your body. The point here is to breathe in as deeply as you can for 4 deep breaths. You want to get the air all the way to the bottom of your lungs, and you'll know that when your bottom hand moves out more than your top hand. And your bottom hand is going to move out because your belly needs to move, your diaphragm needs to move in order to allow your lungs to fully expand. So that is the goal, to move your bottom hand as you are deeply breathing in and completely filling your lungs. But you also want to completely empty your lungs. Right? You want to pretend that you're bringing your belly button all the way back to your spine as you empty your lungs, because that vacuum that you create when your lungs are completely empty will help you fill them more completely on the next breath. So now that I've described it, I'm going to ask you to feel how you feel right now. Just pay attention to, are you feeling stressed? Has it been a difficult morning? However you're feeling in this moment, notice it. Then put your hand on your tummy and on your chest on your own. Take in 4 deep breaths and then notice how you're feeling after. And if you'd like to share how you're feeling after that, then you can raise your hand. Okay, here we go. Okay, would anyone like to raise their hand and share how they were feeling before this exercise and how simply breathing 4 times has changed how they feel right now? Okay. Diane raised her hand. Oh, I see, up here. All right. Go ahead, Shot.
Hey,
I think those are definitely the deepest breaths that I've taken all day. That makes sense.
That definitely makes sense.
Thinking
Most of
about
the
it,
time we breathe up here shallow. We don't breathe deeply. How did you feel before you took those 4 deep breaths, and how do you feel now after?
it feels a little slower, I guess. I feel a little bit less, I don't know, high strung.
A little more grounded, a little calmer.
Yeah.
Excellent. And no, thank you. And note that that only took like a minute, not even, right, to take those 4 deep breaths. It's a short exercise, but it can be very effective. Okay, let's move on. So, one of the things that I love to focus on as a psychologist is inner peace. I do many things, but this is one of my favorite things to talk about and to help people with. And I think it's important for you to have some understanding of why I focus on inner peace, what this really means to me. So I'm going to share a little bit of my own story for you. Do you remember the financial crash in 2008, right? That was another time in our history where there's been a worldwide event, certainly not quite the same as what we're going through now in COVID-19 in 2020, but certainly a big time for the world. This was a time I also had a personal crash. 2008 was a time that many things happened to me, not all of them bad, but all in a very short time that led to a lot of stress. I got remarried at the beginning of 2008. I got pregnant with my second daughter, both wonderful things. And the plan was, at that point, I lived in Brooklyn, New York, and the plan was to sell the house in Brooklyn as we bought this house up here in New Rochelle, New York. And the problem was that's exactly when the housing market crashed. So when I planned on selling, I couldn't. So I had to renovate my Brooklyn house and become a landlord, which I hadn't planned on. And becoming a landlord was stressful, and especially when I lived about an hour away from the rental property. So that was stressful. I also moved my private practice. This is actually one of my offices that I used to have in Brooklyn, New York. I moved up here to Westchester, and I wasn't sure if people in Westchester would like my brand of therapy. So that was stressful. It was almost like starting a new job. And then, I mentioned before, I was pregnant. I was placed on bed rest. Bed rest is misnamed. It is one of the least stressful things to be forced to stay in your bed when you're a busy, active person. So I was placed on bed rest, and even though I was placed on bed rest, I still ended up having a premature daughter. So as you can see, a lot of things happened all within a very short period of time. The year's not even over yet, 2008, and I had all these things happen. This was me, and this was life, right? I felt like life was really pushing me down. Stress was overwhelming. I found myself arguing all the time with everybody, contemplating getting rid of my new husband. Things were very, very stressful. I was overwhelmed, right? And that's why I was arguing with everybody. It wasn't that I was really angry, it was that I was overwhelmed. And I'm embarrassed to admit it. And hopefully you guys won't tell anyone, but so haven't gotten there yet. And then if that wasn't enough, right? Somebody in this little family was diagnosed with cancer. So stress was, again, overwhelming. And the embarrassing thing is that instead of dealing with my stress in some other way, I was relying on Oreo cookies as my major stress reliever. I soon weighed more than I did the day I gave birth to my little girl. But because I'm a psychologist and a therapist, I knew what I needed to do in order to change this around, because this was not going to work for me to keep using Oreo cookies as my major way of stress relief. So I went back to therapy. And in therapy, I realized that before I got married again and had another baby, I'd created this incredible healing ritual for myself. I would get up really early every morning, like 5:30. I would spend a half an hour meditating. I'd spend another half an hour reading psychology things, spiritual things, just doing my own education. And then I'd spend a good half an hour exercising. So I had this incredible hour and a half ritual before I even woke my older daughter up to get her ready for school. But I couldn't do that in this new family where I had a husband and a premature newborn and a teenager. It just wasn't possible for me to take an hour and a half every morning for myself. However, I figured out how to do something differently in 2009. So 2009 was a very different year. And it wasn't a different year because things had changed in terms of stressors. It was a different year because I figured out how to integrate inner peace into my life no matter how busy I was. So 2009, I still had a blended family. These are my two girls, and this is one of my favorite pictures of my girls. My little one who, I don't know who wore who out, but my big girl used to watch my little one on Saturdays while I saw private practice patients. And so one day I come out of my office and this is what I found, which was absolutely adorable. However, having a teenager that felt displaced by her little sister and having a little girl with some special needs because she was born premature was still stressful. I did not require Oreo cookies. That little girl had speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy because she was premature. So sometimes I'd have two therapists coming to the house on the same day. The schedule was crazy, but I was able to handle it without pulling my hair out. And then, of course, when somebody's diagnosed with cancer, that is just the first step, right? The person in my family that had cancer had to have surgery. When we were told that the surgery didn't get all the cancer cells and they would have to have radiation therapy for 6 months, I did not need Oreo cookies. I didn't pull my hair out. I was able to handle that news and maintain my inner peace. So what we're going to talk about today is some of those tools, and I'm going to share some of them with you so that you can also figure out how to integrate inner peace into your world, especially this world right now where we are dealing with so many stresses and things are changing all the time. You've got my personal introduction, but now I need to give you my professional introduction as well. In addition to focusing on inner peace and having, a family and all those other things, I am also an adjunct professor at 3 different colleges. I am a consultant at Brooklyn Job Corps Academy. I'm basically the school psychologist there. And I'm a former president of the New York Association of Black Psychologists. And I've been in private practice for 20 years. Okay. So enough introduction. Let's dive right into why you came to be with me today. Today we're going to talk about stress, and we're going to talk about the antidote to stress. I'm making you a promise right now. I promise to share with you 3 examples of things that you can start doing immediately to reduce your stress. And I will give you 1 free gift, something that you can use to continue this journey, because we only have an hour and a half today. There'll be some other tools and tips that you'll be able to keep trying out and using in the future to continue this journey of reducing your stress and cultivating inner peace. All right. So what is stress exactly? I'm going to give you a very simplified brain model of stress. But for this, I need to stop sharing my screen because I want you to be able to see my hands. I need to ask you, if you don't already have me up, make sure you have me up in speaker view so that you can see me, since most people don't have their screens on. Anyway, you want to make sure that I'm the main focus so you can see my hand. All right. So let's pretend that my hand is your brain. Okay. We have down here what I like to call the lizard brain. Right? This is the part of our brain that we do share with lizards. And lizards are not known for their emotionality, for their cuteness even, right? Or I hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings who has a pet lizard. But they're not known for being emotional. They're not known for higher thought. What they are known for is survival. Lizards are known for making sure that they do the things they need to do to survive. And that's this part of the brain that we share with lizards. Now, the brain develops from the bottom up, as they say. And again, remember, this is a simplification. Your brain is much more complicated than this. But the next part of the brain we're going to focus on is the emotional part of the brain. My thumb is the emotional part of the brain. This is the part that we share with animals like monkeys, like my cat, right? Who preserve their lives through emotions. They interact through emotions. So they get skittish, they run off. They do interact with each other around emotion. They get angry, they get scared, and we can see that from their behavior. Right? We understand that there's an emotional life for many animals, where with lizards, there doesn't seem to be much emotion. What happens here, though, is when my cat gets scared, right, that information goes right down to the lizard part of his brain, and he'll run away to protect himself. that happens to all of us, right? We have the emotional part that can speak to the protection part. But then human beings are uniquely, you know, interesting because we have the most developed prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain that thinks. This is the part of the brain that after this workshop is going to think about whether you want to get a snack. Is it safe to go out and put, do you have the energy to put a mask on to do that? Or if you're just going to stay hungry and have an early dinner, right? This is the part that thinks about those kinds of things. The way our brains are wired is that we can think about something that can trigger an emotion that can trigger us to go down here to the instinctual part of the brain, right? So I want you to hold those three parts in mind as I go back to sharing my screen and we delve into this a little deeper. Okay. So, and that explanation that I just gave you with my hand is my own Dr. Akhu mashup of Dr. Daniel Siegel's hand model of the brain. He only uses two segments to describe the brain. And the more I learned about emotions and stress and how our minds and bodies deal with stress, the more I learned when I came across Dr. McLean's triune understanding of the brain, I thought that made a lot more sense, and I decided to integrate these two different models to come up with my own. But I like to give credit where credit is due, and these are the doctors that came up with these concepts. All right, so let's get back into understanding your brain on stress. Right, back to the lizard brain. The lizard brain, this is basically the spinal cord that describes the lizard brain, and it's divided into two pieces. We have the arousal system. This is the fight, flight, and freeze system, the part of your brain that takes over when your life needs to be preserved. It inhibits your stomach, so you stop digesting food because your body needs the energy to go elsewhere. Your heart beats faster. Your liver lets more glucose out into your bloodstream so that you can have the energy you need to run, to fight, to freeze if you need to, because those are the three main things we do when we are in stress mode. The opposite is the calming system, right? That's the part of your brain that tells you that there's no stress, no life danger here. We can calm down, relax, and all is well. These two parts of the brain basically cannot be active at the same time. And so there are things that we can do in order to turn off the arousal system and turn on the calming system. But let's keep going here. I want you to imagine what would happen if a big angry bear were to come running into the room where you're sitting right now and listening to me. What would happen if you stopped to think about what to do? Please put in your chat box. What would happen if you stopped to think about what to do? I'd become an easy meal, that's right. You'd get attacked by the bear, you'd get killed, you would be eaten alive, exactly, right? We'd all be bear lunch, yeah, that's my favorite way of saying it. You'd be bear lunch, right? So our wonderful brains are made to deal with acute stress, right? Meaning that we are wired so this part takes over to preserve life. The problem is most of our stresses in this day and age, not that we don't have these stresses, certainly, if an actual bear were coming to attack you, this acute stress reaction would make a lot of sense. But most of our stresses come from what we feel, like getting divorced, having a horrible breakup, being scared of a virus we can't see, right? And what we think. Thinking that this test is the most important test that I'll ever take, and if I don't pass this test, I'll never get into graduate school. Those kinds of things can trigger the same experience as a big angry bear. And that is our main problem as human beings, because the stress reaction was not meant to be a long-term reaction. And when it lasts for more than a few minutes, then these are the kinds of things that happen in our minds and bodies. So let's just go over this really quick. When we are stressed for a prolonged period of time in our bodies, we feel headaches, stomach aches, frequent infections, muscular tension, fatigue, stomach aches, because our stomachs are having difficulty digesting, because that reaction turns off the digestive system when we are stressed, right? Emotionally, we feel anger, apprehension, anxiety, loss of confidence in ourselves, sadness, and irritability. Again, these are all things that happen with long-term exposure to stress. Our minds, we might have nightmares, worry, negative thinking, inability to concentrate, which can get in the way of any job that you're doing, indecision and impulsivity. Behavior, loss of sex drive, accident prone because we are not focused on the world around us, overeating or undereating, smoking and drinking, or eating chocolate chip cookies in my instance to deal with the stress, sleeplessness and restlessness. It also can decrease our spiritual connectedness. So these are all things that can happen when we have prolonged exposure to stress. Okay. Long-term exposure to stress, a few things that I want to focus on even more is really what happens in our bodies. Because our liver is putting out all of this glucose, so that we have what we need in our blood to run and to fight. But long term, that can lead to diabetes. Right? Our bodies are not made to put out that much and to not deal with it in a short period of time. Our hearts, again, our blood pressure goes up because our hearts are beating faster because of stress, can lead to challenges around our hearts like high blood pressure. And then last but not least, last that I'm going to focus on anyway, but not least, is when stress affects the way we sleep, it affects how our bodies heal. Yeah. Our bodies do most of the healing and the rebuilding of systems when we are asleep. But if you're not resting well, if you're not getting quality sleep, then your body's breaking down and not rebuilding. And those are all the things that can happen to us that don't happen to our cats and to lizards, because the way we think contributes to stress. Okay. Oops, going the wrong way. All right. So one last thing before I get to the antidote for health, the antidote to stress, which is self-care, is that, just to make sure this is clear, what happens when the stress reaction takes over is the part of our brain, the thinking part, disconnects. Right? Because if we stop to think, like I said with the bear, we'd be bare lunch. So it makes sense under many circumstances. If a bear was really attacking us, we don't want to stop to think. We want to react. But so many circumstances, emotional and intellectual, are not really life-threatening. However, we still act as if they are. So it's up to us to have this antidote, to deal with self-care, so we can always lower our stress levels and not allow this part, the lizard brain, to take over and ruin our good health. All right, so the best way to talk about stress management when we are trying to integrate it into our world in short bites is to focus on energy. At least that's one of my favorite ways to do it. And I want to define energy for you as the fact that everything around us has molecules, and those molecules are vibrating at a certain energy. So the chair, the energy, I'm actually sitting on a yoga ball. The yoga ball I'm sitting on, the clock that I have in front of me so I can pay attention to the time, the computer screen that I'm on, are all vibrating for cohesiveness at different energies. We can tap into those energies in order to help reduce stress and change our moods. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. But my favorite, wrong direction. My favorite way to think about this and focus on it, and it's a really simple way for you to integrate this into your life, is to think about your 5 senses. When you are wanting to manage your stress and cultivate your own inner peace, you can think about, what can I do for each of my 5 senses in order to reduce stress? I only have time to give you a few examples today, but I want you to bear this in mind. Okay? So my first example is something that I came up with because of a woman that I worked with, Brenda. Right? And this is something I knew about, but really working with her helped me focus on how important this is. So Brenda is somebody that I worked with individually. She was a mom of 3 children, and her life was often very, very stressful and busy because she had to manage, her world. She was she worked full time, and the world of her 3 children. And we did a lot of work together in changing things in her life so that she was able to manage. But one day she comes to me, she says, Dr. Akhu, what we worked out really works for me, but I'm finding that my mornings are still chaos because I know I only have to do a few things in the evening to set my morning up to be smoother. But in the evening, I'm often so tired, I can't get those few things done so that I can have a better morning. And I'm going to show you what I showed her to help her find the energy to get her evening things done so that she could have a morning that had more inner peace. I want you to listen to this song and type in the chat box how it makes you feel.
Might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space with the air, like I don't care, baby. By the way,
feel free to dance. If somebody says this song always makes me want to dance, dance. Go for it. Feel like dancing, dance, groovy, happy, happy, happy. Nothing special, and that's okay. Not really. Okay, happy. I hope those of you who said they feel like dancing, that's exactly what you're doing right now, dancing. This song always makes me feel like dancing. Okay, I got another happy. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Come along if you feel like a room without a roof. I told you I'm sitting on a yoga ball, so I'm going to bounce a little. Happy. That is one of my favorite happy songs. I have it first on my regal list. Happy. Another one. My mom, she loves this song. It's her ringtone. Okay. Anybody that didn't respond, type in, how does the song make you feel? It's okay if it doesn't make you happy. Energize. Thank you. From groovy to annoyed, okay. I'm ready to have this in my head for the next few hours, but I'm happy it makes others happy. Okay. All right. Well, I let that finish out in the background. Although this is not the right song for everybody, and that is quite okay. The point is that most of us felt happy. You have to find your own list. What I suggested to Brenda was that she create a list of songs that she enjoyed that made her want to dance, right? That gave her energy, that energized her, as somebody said in the chat. For her, the list that is for herself, right? Which might be very different than your list. But I suggested she create that list, and she came back the next week and she said, Dr. Akhu, that worked like magic. I found that by the second song on my list, I was up and dancing, and I had the energy, because that's what this is all about, energizing, that she had the energy to do the few things she had to do at night so that her morning started out differently. So again, most of us like that song. And I have to say, I like that song. It's a little played out, well, at least they used to say when I was a kid, meaning that it's been around for a while. It was very much played a lot when it first came out, but I still find it difficult to hear the song without getting energized and dancing a little bit because it is a very happy song. All right, let's move on. And if anybody didn't know, which I'd be surprised if you didn't, but just to give credit where credit is due, that is from the Despicable Me 2 soundtrack by Pharrell. All right, so we have another one. I want you to once again listen to the song and just type in however it makes you feel into the chat. Right. Mellow, anxious to unpredictable, okay, calm. It makes me feel calm, time to chill out. Peaceful. Nervous. On edge a bit, doing yoga, on edge, relaxed, anxious. I feel like I'm on hold on the phone. Anybody else want to type? Please type in how this song makes you feel. Now, the majority of you, again, found this song relaxing. Some of you didn't find it relaxing, but what you did notice is it made you feel differently. Mellow, thank you. It made you feel differently than the song that we listened to before. And that's really the point. You know, human beings, nothing is 100%, but it's about finding what works for you. So I strongly encourage you to find music that you find energizing and create an energizing list so that when you need to get up and moving and get things done and you don't really feel like you have the energy, you can use that list to move you. But it's also very helpful to find a list of music, to create a list of music that is relaxing, that can help you when you are feeling agitated, when you're feeling upset, that can help you relax your spirit, calm down, cultivate your inner peace. And third, I find that it's really good to have work music, which is kind of in between. It's not quite energizing, but it's not totally relaxing. And for work music, I strongly suggest that it be classical music, instrumental music, music in another language. Because I know I find that on my work list, if I have something in English that I like, I'll start singing and get distracted and won't be focused on my work. So for most people, if it's classical music, music in another language, it becomes background, but it gives you enough energy to focus on your work. It can actually increase your ability to focus on your work without distraction. So that is a tool that I hope you all use. For those of you who did like the song, that's African Symphony from Earth, Wind and Fire, Spirit album. And I have to tell you, it sounds much better in person than it does through all these electronics. The electronics, in terms, I'm not a musical engineer or anything, but it does sound better in person or through some other direct method as opposed to going through here. All right. So we're going to move on to another way of reducing stress through self-care. One of the other things that I really like to focus on, I think it's because I'm a psychologist and symbology is part of the work that I do, is symbols. The symbol here, one of my absolutely favorites, is the butterfly. And the butterfly is my favorite because it's such a good symbol for what I do in therapy. And I started using this symbol really around my work with people who were pulling their lives together back after intimate partner abuse, because the butterfly goes through that whole transformation. And that's what the butterfly is a symbol of, transformation. When we look at a butterfly, not only is it beautiful, but we know that butterflies start their lives as caterpillars. And then they go through this whole metamorphosis to become these beautiful butterflies. So I use this as a symbol to remind people that I work with that therapy is that metamorphosis part of their lives. And that when we get through with this difficult transition, that they will become butterflies. So symbols are really important. I want somebody, and I will see if I can see everybody that is, but I want you to read this quote, and would anybody be willing to unmute themselves and tell me what this quote makes them think? You know, how do you think, what does this bring up for you when you read what Maya Angelou had to say here? Okay, who would like to, oh, I see I have one person on the phone, so I'll try to make sure that I share things if you can't see them. We're looking at a quote by Maya Angelou that says, if you're always trying to be normal, you'll never know how amazing you can be. Would anybody like to come off of mute and show themselves and talk about what that quote means to them? Okay. Well, what this one means to me, and the reason why I picked this one is because, again, my work as a therapist, very often, I am encouraging people to stop worrying so much about what other people think and to really focus on just being themselves. And so this quote for me is a reminder that you don't, what other people think is what is normal, right? We don't have to worry about what normal is. You just need to worry about how amazing you are. And if you focus on that, then you can truly be amazing. And I picked this because you're all librarians, right? And that means that the world of words is part of your focus and your love. At least I think that's a safe assumption for librarians. And words have power. Quotes like Maya Angelou's quote have power. This is an African proverb: only a fool tests the depths of a river with both feet, right? Meaning that it makes a lot of sense to ease into transitions if you can, as opposed to jumping in with both feet. Of course, you can probably find a proverb that says something that's the opposite. But the point is that words have power. They're symbols that can remind us of things in shorter ways. And one last one is a mantra. Right? This is a way of taking those words and making them into your own personal power statement. Like this example: I am stepping into the unknown. I am welcoming change. And I picked this one on purpose because of the time we're in right now. We're in a time where change is a constant. Things are always changing. But we're in a time of big change where things are changing every other minute. And so for some of us, that causes anxiety. And it's helpful to think about things that can help you reduce that stress. And this is a statement that can really do that by thinking about that it's okay to step into the unknown. And you can choose to embrace change as opposed to fear change. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to send you all out to breakout rooms. At least I'm going to try to do that. Here, I'm going to send you all into breakout rooms. And in the breakout rooms, you're going to pair and share. Basically, I want you to talk about how you see words as powerful and which of these things, mantras, quotes, and proverbs, which of these things you have used and you might want to use to help you in the future in managing your stress. Okay? When you get to the breakout room, you may have to unmute yourselves. So just so that you know that, 1 second, and here we go. All right, there we go. So you're all going to be invited to meet. So they may have missed being asked to join in the breakout rooms. I tried to move a few people as I could. And I'll make sure, because we're going to do this one more time, that I will start moving people immediately so that you all have time to have the conversation in your breakout rooms. But for those of you who did, I hope you had a good conversation about how you can use words as a way to reduce stress and empower yourself. So before we move on, and we definitely have a few more things to try today, I just wanted to point out that some of the slides that I've been showing you have these cards in them. And these are cards that are part of my 5-day journey to inner peace. So please put the link for the 5-day journey into the chat box now. So this is a free 5 emails in your email box, 1 each day, with a prompt of something short and easy to do, like some of the things we've already done. And these are 2 more examples of cards. The music that we already listened to, but this is based on your own choices of music. Things that you can do to integrate inner peace into your life, to reduce stress, that will fit into your schedule no matter how busy you are. The idea is that the 5 days are part of a 30-day card deck. And the idea is that for 1 month, you try out something new every day. And by the end of the month, you should have a group of new things you can do that you can integrate into your life to reduce stress, that are quick and simple and free. The only thing that you need is an email account so that you can get the 5 emails, and maybe a smartphone, because some of them will ask you to, say, ask Siri something or ask Alexa something, but that's really all you need. Everything is perfectly free and easy to do. So that being said, please, I'm not looking at the chat box at the moment, but please make sure that you get the link from the chat box. We'll put it in again at the end if you'd like to sign up to get a few more examples of quick and easy ways you can integrate inner peace into your life. Okay, so we're going to move on to another exercise, and this is one I asked you to have paper. Hopefully you've been taking notes and writing down your questions for the end, but you're going to need the paper for this next exercise. So I want you to, without giving it much thought, to quickly write down 7 things you're grateful for right now in this moment. 7 things you're grateful for. And this is one that I love to do all the time because it is such a great way to cultivate inner peace. And these don't have to be big things. One of the things that I'm always grateful for is a good hot shower. A good hot shower makes me feel so rejuvenated and recharged. And I've been to places in the world where you can't get a good hot shower. So please don't worry about it being big or small. Just write down 7 things you are grateful for right now. I was going to put us all in breakout rooms to discuss what we're grateful for, but given that the challenges with breakout rooms, I'd rather us just spend a moment together focusing on this. So it would be really wonderful if you guys would type into the chat at least 1 thing that you're grateful for. Right? And then I'll share that with the group. Okay. So please type into the chat, and after you finish your list, 1 thing you're grateful for. The first one that came up was air conditioning. I know, right? Air conditioning is really wonderful when it's 90 degrees outside. A beautiful view from my office desk, health, beautiful weather, fan on my desk, friends and family, pets, my garden, beach, kids. Excellent. Sunshine. Bird songs. I love bird songs. We just got a bird feeder in our back, so now we have hummingbirds. They don't make songs, but they're really beautiful. Health, family, children, job, happy childhood, friendship, sunny days, beautiful. Consciousness, paycheck. That's a great thing to be thankful for, especially right now when not everybody has one, right? Friends, health, garden, education, comfortable shoes. I have had problems with my feet, so comfortable shoes are a really great thing. Water and working from home, co-workers, my walks, backyard, beautiful, beautiful. And how did writing a list of things that you feel grateful for, how did that make you feel? Anybody want to add that in the chat? How did it make you feel to focus on the things you're grateful for? blessed. Good to put into words, happier, blessed, happy, optimistic, anxious, okay? All right. And again, the thing about these tools is you have to try different tools and you figure out which ones work for you. And if it makes you anxious, then that may not be the best one for you. Satisfied, to make sure I had 7. Put things in perspective, fortunate, okay? Made me realize how much I am grateful for. Fabulous. All right, we're gonna make this a little deeper, right? So now I want you to grab one of the things on your list, randomly pick any one of those things on your list. And the next step is that I want you to write a quick thank you letter to any one of those things on your list. And I want you to write the thank you letter just like you'd be writing a thank you letter to a person who gave you a gift or a person that fed you dinner. I want you to really get focused on why are you grateful, right, for this one thing. So I'm going to give you about 4 minutes to just write a little thank you letter. And when you're finished, please put your thumbs up so that I know you're done, because I can't see, none of you have your faces on screen, so I can't see any of your faces to judge by that. So please give me a good thumbs up and so I can know when we're done and we can move on. Thank you. All right, 1 more minute, and then for those of you who have finished, who would be willing to come on camera and tell me about how that felt to write a thank you letter? You don't have to share your thank you letter. You don't have to share your list of gratitudes, but I'd like somebody to share about how it made them feel, right? And please raise your hand if you'd be willing to come on camera and share how it made you feel to write a thank you letter. Okay, see, 1 hand. Diane, do you also have your hand up? All right.
No, sorry.
Okay, but I saw another hand. Sorry, it's hard to see everybody on screen here.
Hey,
Keisha, I think somebody named Keisha put their hand
Krishna.
up. Oh, that was you.
Krishna,
Sorry,
yeah.
yes. Okay, you want to share again?
Sure, yeah. So it was nice. It was interesting because I think just listing out the things that you're grateful for, that you're thankful for, it's you kind of like blast through the list, but then when you're writing a little bit more in depth to this one thing, it makes you kind of explore some more of the facets of why you listed it. It helps you kind of explore the complexity of that feeling a little bit more.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. And how do you say your name again?
Krishna.
Thank you, Krishna,
Yeah, no
for
problem.
sharing. That's exactly the point. I did a workshop. I do a lot of these kinds of workshops. And one person that I worked with named Ruth in one of the workshops I did, similar to this one, she said that she'd been keeping a gratitude list for years and had a gratitude journal. And even though she was very familiar, that this was the first time she'd ever stopped to really go into depth and look at why she was grateful for something. And so no matter where you are in the journey, I have some tools that can help you move it to the next level. And Ruth found that it really helps her move her gratitude practice to a deeper level and focusing on not only what she's grateful for, but why. So thank you, Krishna. All right, so we are, believe it or not, more than an hour in our time together. I promised you today that I would share at least 3 things with you that you could start using immediately to reduce your stress. We've already done the 4 deep belly breaths, right? It's where we started. We talked about gratitude, wrote a gratitude letter so that you have 2 different practices, depending on how much time you have, but neither of those practices took very long, right? Writing that letter still only took a couple of minutes. So you have 2 different gratitude practices you can use. We talked about the power of music. Even if the songs that I played for you weren't quite your style, you understand how they could change your energy and how you can now use music to change and adjust your energy depending on what you need. And we talked about the power of words. So I promised at least 3, but we've got at least 5 in and we're not done yet. I have one more that I'm going to share with you before we finish for today. But as we come to the end, before we get to Q&A, there are 4 more things that we're going to do before we are finished for today. The first one is to close the loop. And what do I mean by that? I want to bring you back up to 2019 in my story. I told you my story from 2008 and 9, but I'd like to close the loop by letting you know what's going on now. That little girl, well, the big little girl that you saw laid out there napping with her sister is graduated. She's all off and launched into the world. She's a professional. She ran the marathon a couple of years ago and she's doing very well. And I'm very proud of what a fantastic young woman she is. The person in my family that had cancer likes to say now that they're cured, but they certainly are in remission and doing very well and healthy. And the little girl that was premature that had speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy got her black belt in Taekwondo at 8 years old. She speaks 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Chinese fluently, or relatively fluently. She's only 11. And she is an honor student. She got high honors in the 6th grade. So I'm very proud of her. Early intervention worked great, and she's doing very well. Now, we all know, what happened between 2019, 2020, starting kind of at the end of 2019, certainly by the beginning of 2020, was the pandemic. I live in New Rochelle, and I live very, very close to this big purple dot here. As many of you probably know, New Rochelle was kind of the epicenter for the COVID virus here in New York City. And so this started close to my house. I live walking distance from the synagogue, and all these things. I'm almost at that purple dot right there. So when things started here, this was another stressful event that really tested my ability to hold on to my inner peace, to practice what I preach. And I am proud to say that I was able to practice what I preach, and I was able to use the tools that I showed you today to make sure that I kept my inner peace while getting my family ready to hunker in and deal with this virus. So these things are not just things that I talk about, things that I've studied, but things that I use still personally to make sure that I did not need to eat Oreo cookies in order to deal with the COVID virus. And nor have I had to do that. Not that I don't like Oreo cookies, I do, and they're a wonderful treat, but I don't have to rely on them as a coping mechanism anymore, like I did before I was able to incorporate inner peace into my everyday world. All right, so number 2, we are going to take a minute for feedback, right? And often when I do this live, everybody has a feedback form and they can do it right there before they leave. And I'm finding that once I end workshops, people go off and you get busy again and forget to give me feedback. So I'm going to ask, please put the feedback link into the chat. I'm going to ask everybody to please click on the link, open up the feedback form. There are only 5 questions. Please give me feedback, especially now. I've done these workshops a lot. I've done them a lot live. I want to get better at doing them here in the virtual world, and I'd love to get your feedback so that I can improve them. So please put the feedback link in the chat. Thank you for the feedback form. I'm going to stop everything right now for 3 minutes and ask you all to click on that link, go over to the form, and please fill it out. It's only 5 questions, and we'll come back in 3 minutes. Thank you. All right, but we are going to get back to the workshop, and then we'll have another opportunity after for that link. Okay, and I hope that you put the link in previously also for the 5-day journey to inner peace. I hope that, and we're going to put both those links in again at the end of the workshop. All right, so thank you for those of you who did go over and fill in the survey for the workshop. I appreciate that. And for those of you who are having difficulty, I really appreciate you putting the time in and effort in after we're all done to complete the survey. Again, it's only 5 questions, and it helps me improve what I'm doing so that the next group of people who come through this workshop get even more. So I really appreciate that. All right, somebody said, tell people to use the control button and click on the link. Okay, so that's another way to do it, to I guess, hold down control as you click on the link. Thank you. All right, so number 3, I have a question for you, and this is something else for you to put in the chat, right? What is your biggest takeaway from today's workshop? And I know that, that might be one of the questions on the survey, but I really want to share everybody to focus right now in this moment about what their biggest takeaway, what is the thing that you've learned today that you might incorporate into your life to help reduce stress? So please put your answer in the chat. Okay, I can't type with gloves. Sorry. that you know what? I hadn't even thought about that, but that is true. Some of us, if you're in your workplace and you have on gloves and masks, and that might be a little bit difficult. So definitely we want to email these links out so that if you can't type with gloves or you can't navigate too well with them, it's something you can do later. Thank you. Having my personal mantra, fabulous. Having a mantra can be very powerful. And mantras are things, I do a whole class in creating mantras because it's really important that they be positive, and you can create them based on whatever challenges you might be facing to give you some words of power to help you navigate. So thank you, that's wonderful. The importance of music, yes, music is really important for changing our moods, and something that, I think everybody knows on some level or another, but sometimes we need reminders about how great music can be. I love having tools beyond meditation and things that just take a few minutes to take a moment throughout the day. Fabulous. Exactly. That's the point. If you do these things throughout the day, your stress level might continue going up because you're facing new stressors. But if you're always bringing it down, then you're not going to get overwhelmed. And that is really the point. The fact that there are many simple coping mechanisms available for us to use on a daily basis. Excellent. I am not alone. Okay. Strive to be my own person and not worry about what others are doing. Good. Taking a moment in the middle of chaos to reflect on things, to be grateful for a wonderful thing to do. And it's something that you can do no matter how dire the circumstances. I find that if you take a second to focus on it, you can usually find something to be grateful for. Even if things are really bad, then they could always be worse, and you can find something to be grateful for. So wonderful. Embracing change and surrender control. Everything was very helpful, understanding how the brain works a little more and trying not to overthink and dwell on things and overanalyze. Yes, I think that's really helpful. That's why I give you that grounding in how the brain works, because it helps you. I find that understanding things often helps you deal with them better. Remembering that we all have stress and we all have to face it and overcome. Excellent. Taking time for myself. Yes, self-care is not selfish. It's something that we all need to do so that we can take care of all of our responsibilities. So thank you. Excellent. All right, I have one more gift for you. And this is something else that is in the 30-day card deck for self-care. And this is my favorite go-to stress reducer. So I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to stop screen sharing. I'm going to lead you all through the breath square, and then I'm going to open it up for questions and answers for the remainder of our time together. But I can tell you, as I stop sharing, that this breath square that we're going to do together is my favorite. And I've been doing a lot of work with healthcare workers and people who are really on the front lines of this current crisis, and encouraging them, because this is a 1-minute tool and I've timed it. And I know it's about a one minute because I also have this breath square on my website. So you can go to drakhu.com, my website, if you want me to lead you through this again, if you really like the way I do it, so that you can get this 1-minute stress reduction anytime during your day. But I encourage people on the front lines to do this between patients, because you don't have a lot of time. Things are pretty intense. But if you can just bring your stress level down a little bit, take that 1 minute, then when you go into the next crisis, you can think clearer. Because as we said, right, when you're in fight and flight mode, then the thinking part of your brain is offline. and you're not thinking as clearly. So we want to bring this part online because most of the crises we face are not the kind where we need to disconnect and just go on instinct. Most of the crises we face better if we can think clearly. So that being said, this is what you're going to do. You're going to follow my finger as I trace a square with my finger, or you can trace a square around the screen of the whatever screen you're looking at, or you can just listen to the sound of my voice and close your eyes, whatever feels right to you. I'm going to lead you through inhaling to a slow count of 4, holding the breath into your lungs for a slow count of 4, exhaling to a slow count of 4, and then waiting before you breathe again to a slow count of 4. Now, I don't think I said this before, but I did promise you by the end of this workshop, when we did the first breathing exercise, that you'd understand why breathing is so important. So I'm not sure if I said, when we looked at the nervous system and the fight, flight, and freeze system, most of that system is not voluntary, right? We don't think about how fast our hearts are beating. We don't think about the fact that our liver is releasing glucose into our bloodstream so that we can fight or run. The only part of that system that we have really good ability to control is our breath. And if we control our breath, we can turn off the fight, flight, and freeze system and turn on the rest and digest system, the calming system. We can tell our bodies, there's no big bear out to get us. We can tell our bodies that whatever's going on is something that we can handle. And so that's why the breath is so powerful. So with that knowledge, once again, I'm going to lead you through the breath square, where you're going to breathe in for a count of 4, hold it in for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, and then wait. Before you breathe again, you're going to wait before you inhale. Here we go. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Okay, return to breathing as usual. And would anybody like to share on camera or in the chat their experience of doing the breath square? Okay. Anybody that would like to share their experience of doing? Very relaxing. Excellent. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Akhu.
Hi, Elaine.
Second time I've had the wonderful opportunity to do this exercise, and it is wonderful. Unfortunately, I've been at work jumping back and forth in between the program, but everything I was able to hear today, and especially this exercise, it's simple, and it's something that we can work into any aspect of our lives, and I'm just so grateful to everything that you shared today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you found it so helpful. It is, and that's the power of it, is that it is simple and it is short, but you can really feel a difference. So for most of us, again, nothing with human beings is 100%, but you can really feel the difference and feel the stress come down in just 1 minute. And if we can do that regularly throughout our day, we can really keep from becoming overwhelmed and really help us manage our stress levels so it doesn't hurt our bodies and our minds. So thank you so much. Thank you all for having me. It's been my pleasure to be here. Let me see what we got. A few more things in the chat. Very relaxing, very relaxing. I do this a lot after your last workshop. It's very effective. Thank you. Wonderful, relaxing. It was great having your voice as a guide. Thank you. And I think that, again, if you want my voice as a guide, it's on my website. You can see me lead you through it so that it is easier. For some people, you need guided meditation, and it's helpful to have that as an anchor. For other people, they hate having somebody talk when they meditate. They just need to hear their own voices or focus on their own breathing. We all have to figure out what works for us. You know, a part of this is the journey of exploration to figure out which of these tools work for you and which of these tools don't work for you, and that's perfectly fine. Makes me forget about things for a minute, and if you forget about things for a minute, then that gives your brain a chance to reset. It's like a vacation. When you go on vacation, that doesn't mean everything is not still there, but it gives your brain a chance to reset when you come back and deal with things differently. So that's great. I've done this before. It really works. You can change your breathing patterns any time of the day. I almost think your body starts to learn this, and you do it automatically when you feel stressed. And yes, we can start to make these things regular things that we go to, our go-tos when we're feeling stressed. This is my go-to. When I'm feeling stressed, I go to the breath square first because I know that it helps me think clearer so I can deal with anything else. I feel less stress. I will definitely use it. Thank you so much. This was terrific. Do you think the practice of Reiki also helps with stress management? You know, I've worked with Reiki practitioners, but I haven't studied Reiki, so I am not sure how Reiki would work with stress management. But I imagine because it's a healing art, that anything that is healing to the body would help with stress. Very calming. Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions? We have about 5 minutes left in the time that is allotted for us to be together. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them right now. 1 minute breathing. Terrific. Thanks for all of the tools. Excellent. All right, and certainly if you need to get back to work, that's perfectly fine, but I've got another couple of minutes. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you for putting the links in. So the link for the 5-day journey to inner peace, which is a free, a few more tools than the ones that we've already used today that you can try free in your email every day so that you can give them a try. The feedback form, if you weren't able to open it and fill it out, please do take just a minute. It's only 5 questions. I'd really appreciate it. And then my website, if you want to see the other work that I do, and if you want to watch the video of me leading you through the breath square, please go to the website. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
I also wanted to mention that Dr. Akhu will be back July 27th at 2 p.m. from Implicit Bias.
Yes, and that is one where in that next workshop, we'll need to have you all on camera and fully engaged so that you can get the most out of that workshop. Okay. Oh, and somebody said, congrats on my children. Thank you. My children are quite a joy and definitely almost always on my gratitude list. They are pretty fabulous. I feel very blessed to have both of them. Oh, thank you. This is an excellent program. Highly recommended. Thank you. Please make sure you put that on your feedback form. All right. Are there any questions? Okay. All right, then if there are no questions, everybody please use the tools. Have a wonderful, fabulous day. And if you have any questions, you can find me through my website and you can ask them. And I answer every email personally, so I'd be happy to answer them for you if things come up later. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Akhu. You're on my gratitude list today. Thank you. I don't know if I've been on anybody's gratitude list beyond my children. Yes? Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We hope we'll see you in 3 weeks for the implicit bias workshop.